When Carl Jung asked, "What myth am I living?" he wasn't merely posing a philosophical riddle. He was offering a profound invitation to confront the unseen forces shaping our lives. This question, deceptively simple, holds the power to dismantle illusions, uncover hidden truths, and illuminate the scripts that guide our every decision. We are all actors in narratives we didn't consciously write. From our first breath, we inherit stories, woven by family dynamics, cultural norms, and early experiences. These narratives are more than beliefs. They are the filters through which we interpret reality. For example, the relentless achiever may unknowingly live a story about earning worth through success. The habitual people-pleaser might still be acting out a childhood script of conditional love. In today's world of curated social media lives and conflicting ideologies, understanding our personal myths is not just enlightening, it's essential. These invisible narratives shape how we perceive ourselves, our relationships, and our possibilities. They operate quietly, often beyond our awareness, influencing every decision and ambition. Until we recognize them, we are merely actors reciting lines written long ago. Section 1. Stories that define us. Our minds are storytelling machines. From everyday decisions to our sense of self, these internal narratives define how we see the world, but they're not always kind or accurate. Imagine someone who views life as an endless battle. They're not simply pessimistic, they're embodying the warrior myth, seeing every challenge as an enemy to conquer. Consider the myths many of us unknowingly adopt. The eternal victim who interprets every setback as persecution. The perpetual savior, driven to rescue others while neglecting themselves. The unworthy child, forever striving to earn love that seems unattainable. These stories are like prisons, constructed from early experiences and inherited beliefs. A daughter of a narcissistic parent may live by the myth, "I must achieve to be loved." A son of an absent father might internalize, "I can't depend on anyone." These scripts feel like reality because they're etched into our subconscious, shaping how we navigate life. Romantic myths also entangle us. The idea that finding the one will solve everything is as old as humanity itself. Chasing this ideal, many cycle through relationships, believing each new partner might be their salvation. Yet they're simply replaying a narrative rather than confronting its deeper roots. In workplaces, the warrior archetype manifests as hyper-competitiveness. Every task becomes a battlefield, every colleague a rival. Relationships turn into power struggles, further reinforcing the myth. These narratives persist because they're invisible. They don't feel like stories, they feel like truth. Section 2. The prison of unconscious myths. These unconscious stories act as barriers, shaping our lives with precision. Someone believing "I'm not good enough" may sabotage opportunities, unwittingly creating evidence for their story. Another who fears betrayal may, through suspicion, push others away, fulfilling their narrative of isolation. Our minds selectively gather evidence to support these myths, ignoring anything that contradicts them. A person who believes "I'm unlucky" will recall every misfortune while overlooking moments of good fortune. This selective memory builds walls around us, reinforcing our perceived reality. The impact of these unconscious scripts extends to every aspect of life. Relationships, old wounds replay in endless cycles, creating conflicts and misunderstandings. Careers. Choices are often driven by inherited limitations rather than authentic desires. Success. Achievements can feel hollow when they stem from a need to prove something. These patterns are particularly evident in relationships. Someone convinced "I must never show weakness" may avoid vulnerability, resulting in shallow connections. Another, living by the myth "I must be perfect to be loved," might exhaust themselves and their partner with impossible expectations. Even society isn't immune. Myths of endless progress, technological salvation, or national exceptionalism weave into personal stories, creating layers of unconscious imprisonment. Section 3. Breaking free. Freedom begins with awareness. Jung believed the key to transformation lies not in fighting our myths, but in recognizing them. The first step is identifying the patterns in our lives. Where do we repeatedly stumble? What triggers strong emotional responses? These aren't coincidences, they're clues. For example, someone who attracts unavailable partners isn't unlucky. They're replaying a deeper narrative. A high achiever who feels empty might be living a story about worth tied to success. Breaking free requires more than wishful thinking. Jung advocated for active imagination, a process of consciously engaging with our inner narratives. Journaling, self-reflection, or creative expression can help us make these stories visible. And what's visible can be transformed. Steps to rewriting these narratives. Notice the patterns. Catch yourself living your myth. Recognize automatic reactions and choices. Examine the evidence. Question the truth of your story. Does it truly serve you? Seek contradictions. Look for evidence that challenges your beliefs. Live a new story. Act as if the new narrative is true, even before you fully believe it. Choosing a conscious myth doesn't mean denying past experiences. Instead, it means reframing them to support growth. You can acknowledge pain while choosing to carry it differently. Our goal isn't to live without myths. That's impossible. The aim is to embrace stories that empower us rather than those that confine us. By becoming authors of our own narratives, we reclaim our power to shape our lives consciously. Chapter 2. The Power of Awareness. Awareness is the key that unlocks the doors of our inner prison. Without it, we remain bound to unconscious patterns, endlessly repeating old cycles. But the moment we turn our attention inward, the landscape begins to shift. What was once invisible becomes visible, and what seemed inevitable begins to feel like a choice. Carl Jung believed that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. This profound insight reveals why so many of us feel trapped, as if life is happening to us rather than through us. Awareness is the bridge between living as a passive participant in our story and becoming its conscious author. Section 1. Recognizing the patterns. The first step in gaining awareness is recognizing the recurring patterns in our lives. These patterns are like echoes of the stories we carry within us. They show up in our relationships, careers, and even in the way we talk to ourselves. The repeated heartbreak. If someone keeps falling for partners who leave them feeling abandoned, it's not just bad luck. It's an echo of a deeper belief about love or worthiness. The unattainable goals. A person who consistently sets impossible standards might not be driven by ambition, but by a myth of conditional worth, believing they must achieve to deserve love. These patterns aren't accidents. They are mirrors reflecting the unconscious stories shaping our lives. By noticing them, we take the first step toward understanding their origins. Section 2. Listening to the inner voice. Inside each of us is a voice narrating our experiences. Often, this voice is critical, doubting, or filled with fear. It whispers, "You're not good enough," or shouts, "You'll never succeed." But whose voice is it? Inherited narratives. Many of these inner voices don't even belong to us. They're echoes of a parent's criticism, a teacher's doubt, or society's expectations. The voice of fear? Fear disguises itself as truth. It convinces us to play small, avoid risks, and stay within the bounds of our familiar myths. Listening to this voice without judgment is essential. When we observe it, we create space between ourselves and the narrative. This space allows us to question its validity. Section 3. The role of emotions. Emotions are powerful indicators of the myths we're living. They act as signposts, pointing us toward the unconscious beliefs driving our reactions. Fear, often rooted in a myth of inadequacy or scarcity. Anger can reveal a story about powerlessness or betrayal. Sadness might stem from a narrative of loss or unworthiness. By paying attention to these emotions, we can trace them back to the stories that fuel them. For instance, someone who feels intense anxiety before a big presentation might uncover a story about needing to prove their worth to others. Section 4. Breaking the cycle. Awareness alone is not enough. It must be followed by action. Breaking free from unconscious patterns requires us to challenge the myths we've lived by and replace them with empowering ones. Steps to break the cycle. Question the story. Ask yourself, is this really true? And whose voice am I hearing? Reframe the narrative. Instead of believing, I'm not good enough, reframe it as, I am enough just as I am. Experiment with change. Act as if the new story is true. If you've always believed, I can't trust anyone, try opening up to someone in a small, safe way. This process isn't easy. It requires courage to confront long-held beliefs and patience to rewrite them. But every step forward weakens the grip of the old story and strengthens the foundation of the new one. Section 5. The power of choice. Becoming aware of our myths gives us something we've often lacked: choice. No longer bound by unconscious scripts, we can decide which stories to embrace and which to release. Choose empowering narratives. If you've lived by the myth of scarcity, replace it with one of abundance. Align with your values. Ask yourself, what kind of story do I want my life to tell? Choice transforms us from victims of circumstance into creators of our destiny. It allows us to take ownership of our lives, not by denying our past, but by choosing how to carry it forward. Section 6. Living a new story. Rewriting our story isn't a one-time act. It's a lifelong process. Each day offers opportunities to reinforce the new narrative. Daily reflection. Spend time each day observing your thoughts and actions. Are they aligned with your new story? Gratitude for growth. Celebrate the small victories as you break free from old patterns. Continuous learning. Stay curious. Read, reflect, and engage in practices that deepen your understanding of yourself. Living a new story requires practice, but the rewards are immeasurable. As the old myths fade, they make room for growth, joy, and authentic connection. Section 7. The ripple effect. As individuals break free from unconscious myths, they inspire others to do the same. Change spreads like ripples in a pond. Families heal, communities grow stronger, and societies begin to question the collective myths that no longer serve them. This isn't just personal work, it's transformational. By choosing to live consciously, we contribute to a world where authenticity and awareness become the norm. Closing thoughts, awareness is both the beginning and the foundation of transformation. By turning inward and examining the myths that govern us, we reclaim the power to shape our lives. Each step we take toward conscious living is a step toward freedom. A freedom that allows us to not just live a story, but to write one that truly reflects who we are.